Good morning, YouTube. Today we have a leaker. Here is the culprit. 2017 Jeep Wrangler. Customer noticed some pink liquid on the ground. You can see a whole bunch of coolant dripping onto the front diff cover there. I first inspected this yesterday. Could not see anything on the radiator or hoses. There is coolant dripping off of the overflow bottle there. I cleaned that off, let it sit. I tried to pressurize it yesterday in the car unsuccessfully. I'm going to try to do that today, but I went ahead and ordered the replacement for this morning to go ahead and install. And I gave the customer the caveat of, I'm 99% sure of this, but we need to go ahead and do it anyway. What I'm pointing to now is the overflow straw out of the reservoir. It's kind of a bad design here with the Jeep. You can fill it with coolant and then pour right through that, and then it'll go onto the ground and you'll think you have a leak. So not great. Suggest using a funnel if you got one of these. Audio was not working today. I will fix that for next time. So here we're going to go ahead and replace this thing. Pretty simple. One plastic clip that holds that bracket on, and then these two little tabs kind of snap into the fan shroud. Comes with a new hose that connects to the upper radiator neck where the cap is, and that's about it. First step, remove the plastic clip with some trim panel kind of pliers. And as soon as I touched this one, that plastic bracket on the old reservoir fell off. So not great material, pretty flimsy. Once you get that out, it is loose. Time to go ahead and pull the long overflow hose off. You really want to be careful prying on any plastic piece of the radiator. It is not too difficult to crack those off, and then you're in for a radiator replacement. So be very cautious, especially on older cars with more mileage. There's a radiator cap, and the hose is coming off the back of that. Again, that hose came new with the new one. I did go ahead and buy a Dorman part. Mopar was not available. Obviously it's not that great. This car only has 47,000 miles on it. So those two things, availability being the most important thing. Dorman, it's probably not too difficult to make this plastic part correctly. I'm going to try to save the coolant here. So once I get the new one in, I'm going to fill it with the coolant that's in this one and then top it off. The overflow cap, I'm a hoarder. I'm going to keep that. We see quite a few Chrysler products that come through here that are missing their caps, so I'll just stick it in my drawer for when we see that next time. New tank slides down in, snaps into place, bend that bracket, and then install the plastic pop clip. So the way this thing mounts is fairly flimsy, and I suspect that over time, with the weight of the coolant in the jug and vibration, it fatigues the plastic. And I'll show you here in a minute the leak that I did find and where it's located. Snap your hose back on. There's nothing to bleed in this repair because the coolant overflow is not part of the system. It's not a closed system like some pressurized overflow tanks are, or expansion tanks. Again, use a funnel with this type. I tend to make a mess anyway. Fill it up, and then I topped it off. I don't think I recorded that portion, but make sure it's filled up to the maximum line on the side of the tank. And this is where I suspect the leak was coming from, this like lower seam area somewhere. Can't visually see anything, but in a minute I will pressurize it and we'll test it. So this whole seam is suspect. Just the way plastic pieces are made, there's always a possibility that over time they can crack. So we got it filled up to the maximum line. Ready to snap our plastic clip back in, and then the mounting portion is all set. So I've got a rubber tip blowgun here. I'm going to feed it into that overflow tube. I pinched off with some vice grips the rubber hose, and I'm gently pressurizing by holding the cap on real tight. I've sprayed the seam with soapy water, just Dawn and water, and I'm hoping to see some bubbles. You don't want to go crazy pressurizing something like this, or you could explode it. So just a few bursts of air are sufficient. Now I'm going to spray it again with soapy water because it's kind of running off at the same time. But there in the middle of that tab, you see some bubbles coming out. So that is the mounting tab that snaps into the fan shroud. And over time, just the vibration certainly has cracked that plastic seam where the two halves kind of are molded together. So that's the failure for this one.